Hi there, my name is Amber Swaim and I'm the head of sales and marketing over at Spice Trade Brewing. So today we're going to do a video post talking about the gluten removal process for Education Day of Craft Beer Week. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what makes gluten removed beer different from gluten-free beer and talk about the process of removing gluten from beers. A lot of people do not know this, but all of the beers that we brew here at Spice Trade Brewing are gluten removed. Everything from the beer that you find on draft to the ones in cans and bombers. However, there is a very big difference between gluten removed beer and gluten free beer. So I'm going to go through exactly what both of those mean. Gluten-free beer is beer that is brewed with ingredients that do not contain gluten. So it's beer that is brewed with ingredients like milton, rice, sorghum, buckwheat, quinoa, and corn. The picture to your left, you can see many different examples of gluten-free beer. This is beer that's not going to contain any traces of gluten and would be safe for someone with celiac disease to drink. A very common gluten-free beer is Omission. Another common gluten-free brewery that you find specifically here in Colorado is going to be Holiday Brewery. They're located in Golden, Colorado, and all of the beers that they brew are gluten-free. So they do not contain ingredients that have gluten. Gluten-removed beer is going to be beer that is brewed with all the same ingredients as regular beer, so barley, hops, yeast, and water, but then adds in an enzyme that's going to remove the majority of the gluten within the beer. So some common examples that you'd find on the market today is going to be Stone's Delicious IPA, New Belgium's Gluttony Pale Ale, and Ricoli Brewery is another brewery in Denver that is similar to ours. They have all gluten-removed beers on their menus. All right, so during the gluten removal process, you're going to be adding in an enzyme, specifically in the fermentation process of brewing beer. So everything up until that fermentation process is going to look exactly the same. You're going to add in your water, your yeast, your hops, and your barley. And then once we get to the fermentation process, you're going to add in the enzyme that's going to go in and eat away the majority of the gluten particles within beer. So here you can see it's going to be a little cartoon illustrating the gluten removal process. So on the right, it's going to show a strand of barley or gluten. And within that strand is going to be a specific amino acid sequence, highlighted within the yellow diamonds. Within this amino acid sequence, there are going to be specific gluten particles that the enzyme is going to target and eat away. The little Pac-Man icon is specifically targeting the Y particles, which is going to be representative of our gluten particles. So it's going to go in and it's going to eat those away so that the sequence no longer has those Y particles or those gluten particles. One very common enzyme that brewers use is going to be called Clarity Firm. So Clarity Firm is going to act exactly like our little Pac-Man icon, and it's going to go in and eat away those gluten particles until there is a very small amount of gluten left within the beer. Once the enzyme is added to the beer, it is going to go in and remove the majority of the gluten within a beer. It is not going to remove all of the gluten. FDA recognizes gluten-removed beer as beer that has 20 parts per million or less of gluten particles. There is a specific test that brewers will run. It is called the ELISA. It's going to go in and go through all of those different amino acid sequences and see exactly how many gluten particles are left. And it has to be below that 20 parts per million. So the image below is from the gluten intolerance group and really highlights exactly what 20 parts per million looks like. So 20 parts per million is like 1 penny in about $500, or 1 second in about 14 hours, or 1 teaspoon, and about 65 gallons of water. So 20 parts per million in beer is going to be a very, very small amount of gluten left over. However, someone that suffers from celiac disease may still have a reaction when drinking gluten-removed beer rather than gluten-free beer. So to go back and highlight the brewing process again, so during fermentation, the enzyme was added in to remove the majority of gluten. So now our beer is considered gluten removed, and it's going to continue along the rest of the brewing process. So through maturing, filtering, packaging, and distributing. 2 beers that you can find right now in your local liquor store is going to be our Sun Temple IPA and the Chai Milk Stout. So both of these beers are going to be gluten removed. So they're going to contain 20 parts per million or less of gluten. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in to our video post here on Education Day of Craft Beer Week. I hope you guys learned something fun and interesting. Again, you can always visit our tap room located in Arvada, Colorado. We are off of Ralston Road, housed within the Indian restaurant Yak and Yeti. So you can come in and try all of our gluten-removed beers and really see that they don't taste very different than a regular beer. You can also bring any of your friends that have gluten intolerances, and they'll be able to drink our beer just fine. So thank you for tuning in, and I hope you guys have a great day.